Thank you for joining the Author Spotlight Show. My name is Gail Watson, President and CEO of Women Speakers Association. As part of running a global community of women in 120 countries, it is my privilege that I get to connect and have conversations with women from around the world doing amazing work. It's an important time for women to step up into finding their voice, owning their voice, and it's even more exciting when we see her put her words down on paper into a book so that it can be easily shared. I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest today, one of the authors in Voices of the 21st Century. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Gudy Grewal.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. I'm so pleased to be here.
Super excited to have you. So in this book, you share a very interesting story about your time when you were becoming American, but it's a very meaningful moment in your life. And I'd like to really learn a little bit more about that time and what has inspired you to share your story now.
Thank you, Gail. I was brought up in what the country is called Tanzania, many, many moons ago. And I always tell my friends that I took a very scenic route to get to the United States of America. And for me, particularly, becoming American was so special and continues to be so special because I was not citizen of any country before. Now, I did not do anything wrong. It wasn't because of I just happened to be, going from country to country when my parents made the decisions and I just followed. And so coming to United States, I had heard about United States when I was 7 years old, when President Kennedy was assassinated. And then to be in this great country as an immigrant and to come in and then take the oath to become a citizen was a very emotional day for me, very emotional. And that's what I chose to write about from an immigrant's point of view, my first-hand account.
I love that. And why was it so important to share that story? Like, what is it about that story that you would want people to take away key points of?
That story, America as a country gave me that opportunity to belong to a country, to call it my home. I had lived, before coming to America, I had lived in two, three, four, five different countries. So America being my fifth, actually. So four different countries, and then America being fifth. And actually lived. I mean, I had to function in those four countries. And none of the other countries I had the opportunity of becoming a citizen for one reason or another. But in America, I did. And that was my first thing, that sense of belonging. No matter where I was from, no matter what my cultural background is, no matter that I speak English with an accent, no matter that I did not belong to any other country before that, America took me in and gave me an opportunity to be called an American.
That's really beautiful because your message really comes at a time where we've seen great shifts
Yes.
in societies all around the world.
Yes.
And I'd really like to learn a little bit more about what that has meant to you,
Mm-hmm.
through the eyes of someone who has immigrated to another country, because it's not easy to do.
No, it's not. That's why when people talk about, oh, these immigrants, and that was then my second reason to tell the story, was also that we go through a journey. And as I started loving America and understanding America, of course, we're not perfect. Our country is not perfect. As the poet laureate said, but it's not broken, it's incomplete, to quote Amanda Gorman. So as you learn the history, wow, I'm part of that. I'm part of this rich background. Now, mind you, my heritage is from a country where the history goes back 5,000 years, not just 400 years, right? So I've seen richness before, but to belong to this country where growing up as a child, I heard was the greatest country in the world, came to know about this country, came to know about how the democratic institutions work in this country. And we got an example of that very recently on January 6th, 2021, when our Congress then met at 8 o'clock at night to finish the business of certifying who our next president that the people had elected, the citizens had elected, was going to be. So it's such a mixture of all of that, and sometimes it's hard to put in words. Sometimes it's just that very strong feeling that I am part of this country.
I love it. And I feel your passion.
Mhm.
I also feel your gratitude. And I love that. And it's so inspiring and a great reminder to those who have been born and raised in the country that they're, to really appreciate, because sometimes we can take that for granted.
Right.
Now,
Can I
yeah.
say something to that? Actually, when I was preparing for my citizenship exam, one has to, there is such a thorough background check. Both my husband and I got it on professional basis. Such a thorough background check, and it was a process that took about 7 years after becoming landed immigrant. And as I was reading those, and I would go to my work and I would say, come on, help me practice. And my colleagues, born brought up in America, would say, we don't know this stuff, with the stuff that I had to know, which I am very proud of. I'm so glad that I know that. I know the history.
You
I know.
give us all a test.
I know.
Now,
Yeah.
Goody, you are an accomplished woman. You're a professor at the University of Denver.
Mhm.
I know that you also have a private coaching practice, and you're
Correct.
really there for people and teach them how to be more inclusive. Could you share a little bit more about that private side of your business?
Sure. And by the way, I'm adjunct professor. Just wanted to throw that in. And the course that I teach at the university is called Power, Privilege, and Oppression. So, of course, we talk about inclusion all the time, or institutions or problems where we don't have inclusion. The private practice that I belong to, I contract with a company based out of Chicago. It's called, for abbreviation, is KMA, names of the CEOs, Dr. Kochman, Jean Mavrelis, and we are all associates. When I say we come from different parts of the world. There are other immigrants like myself. My Russian colleague, Russian American colleague, for example, came as a refugee to this country. So her experience of then becoming an immigrant and an American citizen, slightly different than mine. We come from all walks of life. What we do is we train the companies to work with diversity and inclusion so that we go from a monocultural mindset to a multicultural mindset and find multicultural solutions. So it is not just assimilation anymore, it is integration. Yeah.
So needed in our world today, for sure. And what I love about our world today is our eyes have been really open to the need for that, and to go, hey, do I have that in my
Right.
organization? So that's
Exactly.
awesome. You're truly I love that you walk your talk, so to speak, and you teach others for that change.
Thank you. It is so exciting, Gail, when we sit with, and these are highly successful people, and these are very well-meaning people. But what we have done so far, well, maybe up until 20 years ago, was more, let's look at similarities. Let's work with our similarities. For example, when I was a social worker in the schools, the teachers would say, well, don't all parents want good grades for their kids? And I would say, yes, they do. But how they reach that, with the resources that they have, their paths may be different. And to be able to recognize that. So what I really teach to become interculturally competent is not only to work with similarities but to also work with um, dissimilarities, to work with differences.
I
So
love that.
yeah.
And, I just want to thank you for stepping up and using your voice to really talk about this subject. And as we discussed, just the views, sharing your story, the meaning behind what it is to become part of a country. And it's not just about being part of a country. It's also about the country accepting you and feeling like you're
Right,
accepted.
right,
And that's where we as people can really make a difference in
right.
that welcoming factor. So back to your co-author and Voices of the 21st Century.
Mhm.
And I know there's people listening right now who absolutely need to get a copy of this book from you. But also, as I'm thinking about it, this would make a beautiful gift for somebody. I mean, we all know somebody that has maybe immigrated to our country, wherever this message is reaching right now, but to see somebody maybe not feeling accepted, I think this would just be a really beautiful gift for somebody to know that they're not alone, and that other people share their story too. So, Gudy, where can we get a copy of your book?
I You can write to me at my email, which is my name, but I'll spell it for you. It is GUDYGREWAL at AOL.com. So just that simple.
Pretty.
Send me an email. And Gail, I love that idea that you just said, that if there are, yes, we go through different phases and all that stuff, but if there are immigrants struggling, I would really like them to know that, hey, I know what it means. I've been there, but it's worth it.
It is. And I really appreciate your message and being a voice for immigrants. Your story touches me on a personal level. I was
Mhm.
raised with a family who had immigrated to the country. And my father used to, so I'm in Canada, and my father used to always say, I do all the jobs that Canadians don't want to do.
There you go. Yes.
And there was different eyes on us as
Mhm.
a family outside of the country, a different level of acceptance, even, and it wasn't about skin color or anything like that. It was,
Mhm.
there was a little bit of a separation there for sure.
Right. Right.
So I
Yeah.
love that it's talked about today. You
Right.
are rich in wisdom
Oh,
and rich in experience. Oh my goodness. And I just have to point out that beautiful picture behind you.
thank you.
And I believe there's a famous photographer who took that picture.
I wish I could, say I was famous photographer, and believe it or not, I mean, there goes a little bit for iPhone as well. This was literally taken from our safari van in Serengeti. And then, of course, then I had it blown on canvas, so it looks much better on canvas. But I have had a chance to go back to Tanzania and to actually go to all this, not all, but some of the famous safaris. So I'm very, very fortunate. And that's where it's from.
That's
From
beautiful to capture that moment. I mean, it looks like it's out of a dream.
It really is. Yeah. Thank you.
Goody, as I mentioned, you're amazing. You are a woman we need to know.
Thank you.
You're a woman we need to know more of and hear more from. You're jam-packed with wisdom. Please leave us with your final words of wisdom.
I think when it comes to wisdom, I'm with a group of some amazing women, Gail, like yourself and others in the Voices book. I mean, I've been reading their stories and going, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. So I feel, first of all, I feel so fortunate and so grateful to be part of such a great group, and groups before also that have written the Voices and have contributed to the Voices. I don't want to sound like, something so simple, but really my excitement comes from when people are able to work cross culturally. That's when I get so excited, when I can train them to do that. And when they come back and they say, oh, guess what? This mother that I never wanted to talk to, and now she's my best friend, mother of students in the schools. Or when one time a very high up executive in one of the companies where we were doing our trainings, who had to take his fleet of helicopters to India, came back and said, oh, now I understand what I had to do. So, because I and my partner had done executive coaching with him to move his mindset from monoculturalism to multiculturalism.
Beautiful, Goody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
You.
for sharing your words with us today. You're amazing. I can't wait to hear more from you in the future. So I hope everybody listening today will reach out to Gudy Grewal at AOL.com.
There you go. Yeah.
Get a copy of her book. She might even sign it for you. And
in fact, I will. Yes.
Okay, it's a deal then. There we go. Bonus. Pick up a book for yourself. Pick up one to give away.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful,
Definitely.
simple, easy gift to do. Thank you for joining us today, Goody.
Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.